Ask This Old House, our experts travel across the country to answer questions about your house. Today, on Ask This Old House, Jenn helps a couple update the landscaping in their front yard and ended up with a whole new shade pattern. Plus, Richard shares his love of teaching plumbing, heating and cooling, and where his inspiration comes from. Then he shows me the new facility that he built to test and teach modern HVAC equipment. All that on Ask This Old House.
Hi, Jen. I'm Steven.
Nice to meet you.
Angel.
Angel, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about your property? I mean, I saw the pictures, but it's completely different to see it in person. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We had two humongous oak trees right in the front.
Okay.
But they were rotten from the inside, so we had to take them down.
Okay.
Now it looks totally different.
I mean, I could tell that there's hostas and plants, like shade-loving plants that were here because that was the light condition. But now everything's changed, right? So
Yes.
it's full blazing sun.
Yes, full sun,
Okay.
southern facing. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
I'm a florist, and I'm looking for something that stand out, color, texture, heights.
Okay.
So different mix of it.
So now you'll have opportunity to do full sun plantings.
That's
opposed to
right.
shade. So why don't we go take a look at the whole scope of the yard?
All right, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so right off the bat, I could just see the hosta have been burned. You know, there's definitely a lot of shade plantings over here, and they need to be relocated.
Yes.
Coming over to the walkway, which is a beautiful curved walkway, by the way. I just noticed the mums next to the boxwoods, and they're completely just fighting for space. And I'm sure once upon a time, they started really cute and small.
That's right.
So now they've outgrown their space. We could reuse them somewhere else. So along this whole walkway, we could reorganize. Coming over here, this hydrangea is fine and it's gonna do well in this sunlight. But when I go over here, I see about five hollies. And so this is a common mistake people make from the garden center. They buy a 2-gallon pot, maybe 18 inches high, and they don't know it's gonna get 8 to 12 feet high in time. So you can have them as a foundation planting, but you have to keep them pruned and keep them in check, prune them once a year. But what I'd like to do is probably, looking at them, they're about a foot off the foundation. I'd dig them all up, only put 2 back in here, and then pull them out, and then give them enough space, and then I'll teach you how to prune them throughout the year.
Great.
Okay? Hydrangea's fine. All these little plants, like the little pine, we could relocate them. Definitely burn too much sun, but I'm sure there's some shady spots you could use it out back. Definitely won't throw them away, but repurpose them somewhere. This is a Weigelia. I like the burgundy color, adds a little pop, but it's doing its job hiding the gas meter. So I think this one will just prune, and then this Rose of Sharon, I think we could take it down like 3 feet and just if you keep on the pruning throughout the season and know what time of year to prune what so you don't cut off the flower buds, it's beneficial, and then you'll have constant blooms in your landscape.
That's what I want.
Okay, so do you guys have any other comments?
Well, we would love to have it more like a pollinator garden.
Okay.
And get rid of some grass and bring kind of the plantings a little bit into the space now that it's open.
Okay. I'm a fan of removing grass, so we could definitely do that, and then maybe incorporate where this old stump is and then even it out a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, so why don't we just get started cleaning out what is existing, what you have here, and then we'll build off of that.
Sounds great.
Okay. And then try to get a nice root ball, and then when you pop it out, we can put it over there on that blue tarp, and then we'll repurpose it after. Awesome.
I don't think they're very deep, though.
No, they're not. I'm trying not to break the root ball.
Yep.
What you want to do is cut right above the 2 next little buds coming out. Nice clean cut. And then next season, these buds are going to grow up and be the next leaves. So let's take this Rose of Sharon down.
Yeah, let's.
I mean, just take it. I go back 3 feet, 2.5,
great.
3 feet.
Yeah.
See,
No,
I
you
like
can get-
pruning by hand because it's just then you could dictate the shape. Now that we've cleaned up, let's mark out our bed lines. You can use a garden hose or rope to figure out your desired shape. Okay,
Looks great.
saw cutter time.
All right, I want to see this. Heavy machinery.
All right, guys, so we're gonna go on with rakes, and this is what it's gonna look like. So the sod cutter just takes up the roots, right?
Oh, yep.
So it's a nice clean cut, and when you rake it back, you know, if this was really thick sod, it would stick together. We could roll it back like a carpet, but this is just fine. You could use your hands, you could use a rake. We'll make a pile and then get rid of it.
Sounds great.
So why don't you guys start over there,
Oh, that's cool.
right? Saves a lot of sweat effort. Oh, isn't that satisfying? Look at that.
It is so satisfying. I will not miss this grass, I'll tell you that.
All right, so we're just raking all this compost in before we rototill. I brought about 3 yards, so we'll just have those extra nutrients. Let the games begin. One more. Perfect, right there. And I was thinking it would go right here.
Great spot.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love it. I love the shape of the leaves.
I know. This is a ginkgo tree. It's a dwarf ginkgo. Let's get the hollies. We're only
Let's
putting
do
2, okay? You know, we're gonna go 3 feet from the foundation.
Okay.
All right, next, ornamental grasses. These are gonna get like 5 feet wide when they spread out.
Yep. What do you like this way? Right here?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
So the purpose of this is so it doesn't grow in a circle, like around the pot,
Oh, I
because
see.
if you don't break the roots up, they'll continue growing that way and choke themselves out. Okay.
Good.
All right, that looks good.
Is it standing up straight?
Yep. There you go. Yep.
You sure?
Yep.
You have to be sure.
All right, this is the last step. We're gonna do the mulching. This is a nice leaf mulch.
When you said mulch, I was thinking like wood chips, but I never used leaf mulch before.
So it's like a triple grind of composted leaves.
Nice.
Everything organic will break down into your soil and natural fertilizers.
Look at this.
This is
How
amazing.
Wow, it is a beautiful transformation, I have to say.
This is
Love
what I
it.
wanted.
I'm so happy, and just all we did is move around plants that were too close, reuse them, redistributed, add a few other bones, and it is beautiful. So all you have to do is keep it watered. I go to Thanksgiving time or end of the season, you know, hard stop. And then the only other thing I would say is the ornamental grasses. Some people like to cut them down for it to be clean in the winter. I like to leave them up. You know, it's a little habitat for birds and stuff. And you cut them down in late winter, early spring.
Okay, great.
This whole middle strip is for you to play with color. So you could have spring, summer, late fall blooms, and then your bulbs and perennials, and just go nuts.
That's his job.
Yeah.
And I promise
will.
I'll prune things more frequently.
Yes, and then not as close together.
Promise.
All right?
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome. Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you. All
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. That's
Look at this.
I've always been passionate about teaching.
So I thought we would take a minute to talk about siphons. So I thought we'd take a minute to talk about the care and feeding of an outside silcock or spigot.
I like teaching. I like when people get it.
See these holes down at the bottom?
Oh yeah.
So it's much like those air holes on a table hockey game, you know, where the air is coming this way.
Also, the passion comes from my father. So way back when, we got a call from a local public television station. We got a chance to do this house, and they said, you know, with public television, you have to work for nothing. And he jumps on the line. He says, sure, yeah, I think that would be great. And he hung up, and I said, well, why? He said, you know what? We're having a good year. Maybe it'll help the plumber's image. And he used the term pay it forward, as I remember. But he sort of had this way of saying, I want to push in and help the industry and float all the boats in the industry. And he did.
The best way to start to disassemble it so we can remove it is to drop it. Oh, super. Super. It's so good to see that go.
We had some amazing mechanics at our family business growing up. These people that had been there for 30, 40, 50 years that were my mentors. There's a guy, Bill Genson, had been there 50 years when I was there, so he had this collective history memory that just made me feel like I was there in 1902. And there was another guy, Tony Lucas, who, by the time I would have been able to just figure out how to get my folding rule open, he had 5 pieces of pipe run in the building. He just was this magician. He could see it. He could see it in 3 dimensions, and he was an artist. And those are the people I grew up with. And so I borrow from them all the time.
What we're going to install today is an indirect hot water heater. This is a radon mitigation device. These are great. You know, this, you think this is pink, but actually, you know what they called it back then? They called it Bermuda coral. It sounded a lot better than pink, I guess.
My industry is the least understood by the public in general. You know, people know that there's a thermostat in the wall that sends them a bill. What I want to do is demystify the mechanical world, just sort of simplify it. And so when I do that, I find myself wanting to speak to the 3rd grade. I want to make sure that everybody understands, and I use my hands to try and help understand what the words are.
There's nothing more horrifying than coming home and seeing water coming out of the walls.
Right now, we got to get you so you can sleep at night. I always try to use word pictures and metaphors. You know, this is like this, which means this, and that's what I would want, how I'd want to be taught. And so with that comes a little bit of passion, a little bit of theater.
Now it'll fill those radiators with steam. Thermostat should shut off. And now the steam gives off its heat to the room. And the water that's inside, the steam that's inside, turns to water. And now it's called condensate, comes back through the same pipe all the way back to the boiler, and it can be reheated.
I'm emphatic when I talk, but I think if you say something, you have to see it.
This is an energy recovery ventilator. It's pretty simple inside. It has a core right here, and this is really a heat exchanger.
You have to help them imagine where it is if you're not going to see it, particularly behind walls, particularly with television.
You'll look carefully. You'll notice that there are different layers. Air goes this way, this layer, the next it goes the opposing way, and they just alternate.
If I'm going to take somebody inside the mechanical world, a lot of times it's in a really hard place to shoot. So oftentimes, guess what? Underneath the sink.
Okay. Well,
Down.
no. Okay.
There it is.
And then, you know, there's a lot of times you want to explain, you know, inside of a pipe, and these cameras came along that could just go down, and so nothing is better than taking America down a big drain. It makes it real. These tools have changed everything for me to be able to tell what's going on. Then there's all these digital temperature thermometers and thermographic cameras that can bring temperature to life, you know, that we never had before. It used to be we went, that's hot. Now we can actually know exactly how hot it is. So the tools get better and better, and that only makes it easier to teach.
There's this really brilliant control on the front that's like a smartphone where it puts all the right water temperatures into the different functions of the building. Beautiful. You can remotely dial into it, so pretty cool.
I think our show has done as good as anybody to sort of demystify the mechanical room and the whole mechanical world.
So here's what the unit looks like on the outside. We've seen these before. They're used all over the world. You can see right here at the top, there's a combustion air fan and a gas valve.
What I realized after about 10 years of doing that, I'm not going to teach them everything there is, all the rules. I'm going to teach them what represents good behavior, and then that helps them hire better. You know what I mean? And they also get to know what represents a good job, because a lot of times the consumer is, for lack of knowledge, they can be fooled by somebody. And so what we did is we empowered the homeowners to sort of hold their own, and I think it made the relationship better with the marketplace. We want them to know enough about their mechanical world to not live in fear of it, but also know how to hire to have it done right. We showed radiant floor heating before anybody else did. We showed the mini duct system before anybody else did. We showed the world better stuff, and it helped the whole industry do a better system and made people more comfortable. And guess what? The mechanical contractors, they might have made more money. That's okay. As long as the homeowners are happy too. Who loses? Nobody loses.
You have hot water.
That's awesome. Thank you.
This is a cool thing. No matter where I go, if somebody recognizes me, they'll say, thank you. If you're going to do a career where you give teaching and anybody that comes up says thank you, that's a career well lived. I mean, that's sort of just total reinforcement for what you've been doing.
Thanks for your help, Richard.
Thanks a lot, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
The heart of this show is that we're all contractors by birth, and we'll ultimately die as just contractors. That's what we know. And I think as long as we stay true to that with all the next generation of talent, as long as those people really have real jobs and they aren't just actors that are pretending to be contractors will be fine.
Richard, I'm excited to find out where you're taking me. I don't often get to go on these road trips with you.
Well, good to have you as my road buddy. You know, about a year ago, my son Evan and I, we started renovating this old mill building we found down in the south coast of Massachusetts as a training center for the HVAC industry.
Right, because your primary day job nowadays is to be a rep for manufacturers' equipment of heating and cooling.
Right, and that requires a fair amount of training. We always have to do it on the job site or out at a manufacturer or a contractor's office. So we thought we'd build the ultimate training center where you could touch and see and feel everything. And that could be good for the contractors, obviously, the distributors, but also for architects, engineers, builders, and even homeowners to sort of pick out the end product, sort of like a comfort showroom.
Sounds cool. Always the professor, right?
Try to be.
Let's do it.
So Kevin, welcome to our little corner of the world here.
Thank you. Boy, nothing little about it, Richard.
We're an industrialized city called Fall River, and my son Evan and I saw this building and thought this could be a perfect place for a training center for the HVAC industry. It's a 1904 mill building.
So you guys cleaned it up, huh?
Yeah, it's been a labor of love over the past year or so. And this is the training room right here. It's a comfortable, natural lit place. And in this room, we've got tables and chairs that we can fill the room if we choose to, but we can keep it much more intimate. We want it to be a great place to learn. The displays go all around the room. What we can do is modify those displays based on who we're teaching that particular day. Over here, we've got stuff that has to do with all the ways that you can zone, different ways you can put the right temperatures in different parts of the building.
Right.
Over here, this is radiant floor heating.
Plumbing University.
Absolutely. And then many times we start right here on this drafting board. We'll bring the set of plans in for the project, think about the choices. You know, there's many choices nowadays to do heating or cooling in a building. This shows a conventional heat pump air handler. And then this is a distribution method we've used for years, which is the mini duct system that has the small holes. And so that's one choice. This is the condenser unit, the inverter heat pump units that we see in wide use. This could have a single box outside with multiple indoor units. So you could have conventional air systems, but you could also have those high sidewall cassettes. Here would be geothermal. You can see right here that the pathways is a different way that will change the energy.
So when they see this, is it helping them get a sense of both the scale, but also kind of like where you pipe it, how they go in and out?
Yeah, I think guys and gals in the mechanical world, I think they're artists and they do better when they see the stuff and can sort of relate that, yeah, I could do that and think about how to fit it into the building.
Tactile, physical.
Yeah. This is actually air to water. This is actually a unit that has a big outdoor unit. So we're using this actually to do this building, heating and cooling right now. This is the tank we use for the hot water for the faucets. And we do use this to both heat or cool and do the radiant.
So a display, but also operational.
Right, and then they can see the operation, they can see what's going on, so it becomes much more user-friendly. This is a gas-fired condensing boiler with a tank underneath it. In here, you can actually show the proper way to do the piping for the radiant system that's in our building. So they see that and they go, yeah, I could do that, okay, yeah, and the building might change, but the basic concept becomes now repeatable, and that's what we're looking for. HVAC systems that can be installed right so they become repeatable.
Right.
We also want to teach the importance of fresh air in a building. What good is it to make that building tight, 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 and then starve to death for fresh air? We've got all these energy recovery ventilators. We've shown them before, every size, and can't have enough fresh air, you know? Then this is all some of the equipment where you'll touch and feel to make them more comfortable here before they get out in the field. Commercial spaces will have equipment like this. The equipment just gets bigger with more choices for how you deliver heating and cooling into the building. And then back here is our kitchen, team room, and offices.
It's nice. Yeah. Kitchen, couches, nice. Ping pong tables, the whole
Coffee
deal.
once in a while.
Yeah. So what's the philosophy? I mean, what is it? I've seen showroom, I've seen training rooms. What are you going for?
Sort of like a field of dreams. If we build it, we hope they'll come. You know, this is a way to show the mechanical world, demystify the mechanical world, all the different choices, not all the choices, but so many of the choices that are available to people, and let them touch it, feel it, learn about it.
Is there somewhere else that they can get together in that environment, or has it sort of been lost?
I don't know. I don't know there's that many HVAC or comfort showrooms, you know. I think But I can use the analogy, I think, to the plumbing world. There was a time when there was no plumbing showroom and you bought a simple chrome faucet and a white fixture. And the plumbing showrooms came along and people went in and said, oh, I like that. And oh, okay, I can actually afford that. And they would pick a better product. And I think there's some of that going on here where people can come in here and go, oh, so that's what I'd see in my house? Okay, or that's what I'd see in this building? Oh, okay, yeah. And so if they can make that decision based on what the finished product is and then work back, because so often in this world, you just get a proposal from a mechanical contractor and you go, oh, that's a lot of money, but you don't even know what a ton of anything is. You don't know what's on it. So you're buying a recipe that you don't even know what's there. So now with this, you sort of say, let's break it down. Let's see what's in that bag of groceries.
There's a lot going on here. I mean, it's a big space, but you've got a lot of equipment. Yeah. Is there a financial incentive? Is it good for business, or is it?
Well, we certainly hope so. We're a manufacturer's rep, so we do represent products and distribute them. But this is actually bigger than just that, I think, because all the products that are here are not just ours. We're trying to take a bigger mission to sort of teach the industry, hoping that, that rising tide floats all the boats.
So why this, or actually why now? I mean, you've always been a teacher to all of us. This is pretty late in your career. Why?
Well, this particular building is the brainchild of my son, Evan, who wants to sort of grow this thing to the next level, and he's really good at it, But this is sort of a place to keep my legacy going, I hope. I mean, I think it goes back, my dad, ran our family business, and he grew it, and that's the reason we ended up on the show. But he was always the one trying to train the next generation. He would train people, he'd bring them in, he'd adopt them. And then some of those guys went off to start their own business, and I'd always be like, Dad, why do we keep training them and they leave? He said, it doesn't matter. It's going to help the whole industry. And I think if we can do that, if we can educate, and where do you stop educating? You should educate everybody. Right. Distributors, mechanical contractors, architects, engineers, homeowners, building owners. These building owners don't know what to do to solve this issue of energy in their operating cost.
Well, it's nice to see the space, but it's also nice to see you taking your dad's philosophy and keeping it going, passing it on to the sons. Yeah. As I said, you've always been a teacher to all of us, and so to think that there's another generation coming behind you, it's terrific.
It's really fun.
Congrats.
Fun to see it.
Next time on Ask This Old House, Morrow shows how playing with shades of color can brighten a dark space.
This is going to look very nice here.
And do you struggle with water in your basement? Richard and Mark answer some common questions about this problem. Plus, on Build It, Tom makes a bat house that can support the ecosystem of these beneficial creatures. All that on Ask This Old House.